at Missouri Eye Institute, and I have Dr. Osborne with me today. Hey, Dr. Osborne.
Hey, Alyssa, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful. So tell me a little bit about what you do here.
Sure. I'm an ophthalmologist here at Missouri Eye Institute, so we see patients and diagnose all kinds of eye diseases. We also do eye surgery trying to improve patients' vision.
Now, glaucoma is one of those diseases.
You bet. It's a common eye disease, and in general, glaucoma is a disease of the optic nerve, which sits at the back of the eye.
Okay.
The optic nerve basically is like a cable that connects the eye to the brain, and it transmits information through the vision pathways of the brain so that, we can see. And glaucoma is usually associated with high eye pressure, and that pressure can damage the optic nerve and harm the nerve fibers. And if those nerve fibers are damaged, the area of vision that they control can be lost. And
Really?
patients can develop blind spots in their vision.
Oh, gosh. So how does someone know if they have it? What are the symptoms?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, glaucoma is usually asymptomatic, meaning there aren't warning signs to alert patients that there's a problem. And oftentimes patients won't know that they have glaucoma until the disease is severe and advanced. And so it really requires being seen by an eye care professional, such as an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, to screen patients and make a diagnosis.
So yearly checkups is definitely imperative to keeping this disease at bay.
Yeah, definitely. It's important to get your eyes checked regularly, especially if you have a family history of first-degree relative, like a parent or sibling with glaucoma.
So you definitely want to get ahead of that.
We do. We make every effort to try and diagnose and treat it early.
Now, is there a treatment for it if someone has glaucoma?
There is. Fortunately, it's very treatable, and we have lots of treatments. All of them are aimed at lowering the pressure inside the eye, which prevents further nerve damage. The most common treatment is eye drops, which are designed to lower the pressure, and they're usually used 1 to 3 times a day. We also, at Missouri Eye Institute, offer surgical treatments for glaucoma. We have painless laser procedures that take about 5 minutes that can help the drainage system inside the eye work better. And we also offer surgical techniques, including new cutting-edge techniques called minimally invasive glaucoma surgeries. And these can be done by themselves, or they can be done at the same time as cataract surgery, which is a convenient way for patients to have 2 problems addressed at once.
So, I mean, it seems like it's pretty easy to get a treatment, and it's pretty quick.
Very much so. If you come to Missouri Eye Institute for a glaucoma screening, you'll get your eyes dilated. You'll be examined by a skilled technician who will check your vision and your eye pressure, and then you'll see a doctor who will look inside the eye and review any tests that were performed and determine whether or not you have glaucoma. And if you do have glaucoma, usually we'll prescribe a treatment that day, whether it's drops, laser, or surgery.
That sounds great. How can someone find out more information if they would like a glaucoma screening?
Yeah, there's plenty of information on our website at MissouriEye.com. I recommend visiting the American Academy of Ophthalmology's website. They have lots of great patient resources as well.
Sounds great, Andrew. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.